Hi everyone, I'm Deanna Braywick, and this is Fritz, and this is episode 10 of Living Your Best Life with Deanna. I am so excited to have a very special friend and guest with us here today, Jay Colwell. Hi Jay!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
Very well, thank you. To tell you a little bit about Jay, he is an athletic trainer, movement educator, speaker, and health activist, and is the founder and director of the Singing Body Clinic. Jay's coaching is a blend of approaches from many influences, including corrective exercise, yoga, Pilates, and somatic movement practices. I personally have benefited greatly from my work with Jay, and I'm so excited for him to be here with us today to share what he does. I think it's going to be really valuable for you guys. So Jay, how do you think about the relationship between breath and body?
For sure. So the relationship with breath and body, I like to think of breath and body as relatively being the same thing, right? So when we're born, and what I like to tell my students is that when we're born, the first thing we do is breathe, right?
Yeah.
And then everything else in regards to our physical development as we start to learn how to use our body is in response to breath, because it does have such a global effect on posture, alignment, and just, again, the general way that we move.
Yes.
So the first sort of postural skill that we have is to hold up the weight of our head and breathe. And then we eventually start to kick our legs and breathe. We roll over and breathe, crawl and breathe, stand and breathe, walk and breathe. Everything is in response to breathing. And so in that way, we learn how to use our body in response to the way that we breathe.
That's beautiful.
That's how I would just describe that relationship. Yeah, so they're relatively synonymous.
Yeah, and so organic.
So organic.
So organic. So, in knowing that the breath and body can be thought of synonymously, how do you use one to affect the other?
Totally. So the way that we breathe affects the way that we move, right? So breath is like the foundational movement. If we have poor breathing habits, then the way that we use and move our body will likely suffer, and just vice versa. So the way that we can use the breath to affect our physical health is to really take into consideration the breath cycle.
Okay.
We have an inhale, we have an exhale, and there's a full amount of space and then a fully empty space, right?
Yeah.
So by exploring within that and understanding really what it feels like to breathe in all the way and then breathe out all the way, that's really where we can use the breath to affect the body, right?
Yeah.
And in this way, this sort of what I like to think of as like breath mobility, our ability to be able to control inhale and exhale fully in, fully out, I think is super important for distinguishing how to use the breath to affect the body and vice versa. That feeling of strength that we have to be able to control the full range of motion that our joint has is what mobility is. And so when we think about like breath support and breath control, it is about controlling the strength and the movement of your joints, right? And so when we think about this in regards to the breath cycle, we have an inhale and an exhale, and that itself is a range of motion, right? So the quality of our inhale is going to affect the quality of our exhale. The quality of our exhale is going to affect the quality of our inhale. So when I think about joints, your ribs are attached to your spine and they articulate with your spine. They're joints that move. And so when these joints are not taken, again, through their full range of motion, being fully in and fully out, we really lose the sense of support that we're looking for when we sing. In this particular sequence, I think the thing that we need to address most with mobility is really experiencing what it's like to breathe out all the way. And just generally as people, and then singers especially, I just found it with my students that space isn't explored and worked in enough. And what I found is that by doing that, they get, and maybe you can example this, but they get to experience what it's like to actually sing with their full breath, right? When they breathe out all the way, they understand what it's like to breathe in all the way, and therefore they have more of a relationship with how they're controlling their breath. So the sequence that I'll lead you through will be an exploration into the exhale, and then specifically with the diaphragm, which plays a huge role, obviously in breathing, but also in just the whole health of your body, especially your physical body. That we'll stretch into that, and then we'll also just explore making space within the intercostals themselves and hip flexors, and just kind of a whole opening up. So it would be super fun.
That sounds so juicy. I'm so excited.
It is super juicy.
I love that. Let's give it a go.
Hello and welcome to the studio. So in my talk, I mentioned this idea of breath mobility. So being able to take our breath through a full range of motion, inhale and exhale. So the muscle we're going to focus on today is the diaphragm, primary muscle of respiration, also a primary muscle of your core. And you can see it kind of sandwiched here in my beautiful model. It's a three-dimensional muscle, right? And so there's lots of spaces that we can work into to influence how we're going to feel and sense this muscle in the body. So when we breathe in, the diaphragm contracts down, the ribs open, the ribs rotate as well. And then when we breathe out, the ribs are rotated down, the diaphragm ascends back up into the rib cage, right? So this portion of this stretch is going to be focused on the exhale, so the stretch portion of the diaphragm. And from there, we're going to layer on other movements with the limbs so that we can really affect the most space in that muscle and get a real sense of how we're stretching it and where it is in the body and how we feel it. So the skill that we're going to utilize is called Nali Kriya. Other words include like a diaphragm vacuum, if you want to call it that. But what it is a engaging of the deep core muscles, which play a key role in respiration, while allowing the outer layers of the abdomen to relax. So let me example that really quick. Sounds a little weird. So I'll show you what we're going to do, and then we'll take it down onto the mat and we'll explore from there. So Nali Kriya is an engagement of what's called the transversus abdominis. And in doing so, we're going to bring a deeper stretch to the diaphragm. Cool? So how this will work, I'm going to example standing up, but you're going to take a full breath in, and then you'll take a full exhale and hold. So I'll show that first. And then once you're all the way empty of air, you're going to drop the belly button up and in towards the ribs, against the spine. And then when you're ready to take a breath in, you'll release your tension, breathe in. And this is how we're going to work into that deep space of the body. All right, so let's go ahead and make our way onto the mat. I'm going to have you lie onto your back to start. And if at any point you get a little lost along the way, because there's going to be some layering that we'll do, you can go ahead and just reference the video to kind of see what's happening in my body and see if you can replicate that in yours. So to start, we're just going to bring some awareness to the spine and awareness to breath, and then we'll get into the stretch. So I'm going to have you lie onto your back. And just take a moment to feel the whole weight of your body against the ground. And I want you to close your eyes and see if you can just envision your entire spine. What does it look like as it lies here? What are the areas of your spine in contact with the ground? And what are the areas of the spine that are still sort of floating in space? Once you've got that in your mind's eye, I'll have you just take a nice full breath in, filling up the pelvis, the waist, the low back, to the ribs, and just all the way up to the collarbone with no tension in the neck. And then I just want you to exhale all the way to empty, whatever that feels like, to let your body just deflate. Just pause at empty for a second. And just take another full inhale. And another full exhale. And this time I want you to just envision what your diaphragm is doing. So just put it in your mind's eye. Breath in. See if you can just feel the diaphragm just pull down. The abdomen pushes down. The ribs expand. And then as you exhale, just feel the abdomen close, the ribs close, and the diaphragm just slowly ascends up towards the heart. So to layer on our stretch, I'm going to take my arms up to the side so you can see if you need the reference. So first I'm going to have you take a breath in. We'll start with your left side. So inhale fully. And then again, exhale all the way out. Take your diaphragm vacuum. And then with this vacuum, you're going to send your left leg out long. Slide the left heel along the mat or the ground, whatever you're on. And then you'll take your left arm, reach it towards the ceiling. Extend it overhead. And just pause here for a couple breaths. So inhale when you need it. And then exhale all the way to empty again. Diaphragm vacuum. And as you vacuum, slide the heel longer. Reach through your fingertips and try to make as much space on that left side of the body. And see if you can just feel that deep stretch inside of the rib cage and maybe even along the spine, down to your hip flexors. It's going to be different for everybody. And when you're ready, you'll slide and come back. And then we're just going to take the same thing on the next side. So you'll take your breath in. Exhale all the way out. You can reach that right hand towards the ceiling. You know where we're going now. Once you're empty, go ahead and diaphragm vacuum again. Slide the right heel along the ground. Reach the right arm overhead. Make as much space in the whole right side of the body as you can. Let the upper abs relax. Lower core engage. Deep core engage. You can stay here as long as you want. I'm going to take 3 breaths for the sake of time. And again, every exhale, letting myself breathe out all the way as I reach. Vacuuming in all the way, whatever that is for you. And then just start to notice as you breathe in here, maybe you have a bigger sense of awareness for this muscle inside the body. And then we'll just come back to neutral. So that'll be our stretch. I like to recommend that my students do this before they sing, just as, again, it's really good body awareness. This muscle is involuntary, and so by affecting all the structures in the body that it plays with, we can get a better sense of where it is in the body and how it's working. So I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, there's lots of layers to this, so please feel free to reach out to me on social media. You can email me, Singing Body Clinic on social media, singingbodyclinic.com for my website, and I hope to hear from you. Thanks.
Jay, thank you so much for that. If you would like to learn more about Jay and his work, you can check him out at Singing Body Clinic on Instagram. He has lots of information there. He has some free practices. And just thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.